All right, good evening. We'll open the Finance Committee meeting for 3/13/25. Looking to see if there is any public participation.
There is nobody online.
Good, thank you. We have budgets to review. We'll go down the list. Steve, 3 budgets, unless you want to start.
I think you might want to take the fire department first.
Chief Deputy, thank you for joining us. So we all have copies of the budget and copies of the supporting information that were provided. So Chief or Deputy, or Kevin, do you want to go first, or are these guys?
I'll give a quick overview.
Thank you.
And then maybe the finance subcommittee.
Yep.
That's out with Chief Sullivan. The fire department budget, we're recommending that this budget be increased $358,045 over the current fiscal year. There is an increase in personal services, $344,545. Of that, $294,545 is for contractual and negotiated increases, or 4.1%. We also increased the overtime line item $50,000. Under contractual services, the total increase was $9,500. We increased the auto maintenance $5,000, radio maintenance $3,000, and the unclassified $1,500. These all due to increased costs and also current and prior year trends. Materials and supplies, total increase is $4,000. Motor vehicle parts has increased $3,000. Medical supplies has increased $1,000. Also, both due to higher costs. Total budget request for fiscal 26 is $7,826,406. One thing I do want to point out, under personal services, the overtime is running a lot higher this year. Had a lot of people out this year, and we will be doing a supplemental appropriation at town meeting for that.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Chief? Good evening.
You want Dennis first?
Sorry, Dennis. Dennis, you got a review?
Yeah, we had our meeting on the 25th of February, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and 2 o'clock, excuse me. And we had a very good sit down with the both chiefs. And basically, what the overtime is, that is killer with a bunch of long-term disabilities out. And he's been trying to come up with it over the 3 to 5 year average, but he's still running behind on that by about $35,000 if we use the average. Hopefully he'll be able to make it up this year once people get back to work. The other big thing he has is his capital outlay items that we got an aging fleet and increasing workload with the new developments, as he mentioned last year, that are going to continue to increase with the new development. So those are the main items that we went over.
Thanks, Dennis. Anybody else in the subcommittee want to add anything additional? Great. Chief or Deputy?
I don't have anything to add. I think they were excellent summaries of budget requests.
Very good. So we'll open it up to the committee. Hands up. Dan. Up. Don, go ahead. Don first, please.
Just a question, what's the difference between overtime and miscellaneous overtime?
Regular overtime would be related to the on-duty shift strength.
Okay.
Miscellaneous is for unplanned for things, storms. We send an engine out of town for mutual aid. Brush fires, we hire extra people back for that kind of stuff. So stuff that's not planned for, that has nothing to do with the regular shift.
Regular force, okay.
All right. Stefan, I'll get you, Dan, sorry.
Are you able to adjust the minimum manning requirements or are those contractual negotiated?
Contractual liaison.
And do you, I guess, given all of the folks that have been out, this year and, the amount of overtime that you've accumulated this year so far, do you have any requisitions out there for new firefighters?
Right now, all of our spots are full. We had a total of 19 firefighters that were out for a month or longer at different times during the year, so not 19 at the same time, but for the last fiscal year. We have actually all of them except for three, is that right? Yeah, three have returned to duty.
But no job requisitions out for new firefighters?
No openings.
No openings? I guess, how do you get in an opening?
Retirement, somebody resigned from the department, something like that.
I guess, one of the things I don't understand is that the department has had significant overtime for multiple years. I mean, going back through past, all the way back to at least the data that you have here at 2020. But there was a significant jump from 21 to 22. Over $300,000 worth of a jump. I'm just wondering, is it cheaper for the town to hire more firefighters than it is to have the same level of firefighters that we currently have, the same contingent of firefighters that we currently have? And especially if there's a number of folks that are out from year to year.
Our operating budget is designed basically on the assumption that we have 4 groups of 13 in healthy condition reporting for duty with an 11-person minimum. Unfortunately, I've been chief since 2008 and with very few exceptions, I don't believe that's ever happened. Between retirements, people being called off to military service, people getting injured, a variety of reasons such as that, we just haven't been really fortunate with everybody showing up at this, regularly.
I can expand on that a little bit too, because I've wrestled with this every year and for 17 years, and hopefully someone will figure it out better than I did. You need to add a firefighter per shift. So hiring one firefighter makes no sense. You'd have to hire 4. Okay, so you'd have 4 shifts of 14 with minimum manning of 11. Okay, so now we can have 3 guys out per shift. Problem is that 4 new firefighters are gonna add, with salary, their salary is probably gonna be, what, 360, I guess, 80, 90 when they come in?
Yeah.
So 360 plus bennies on top of that. So that's what we weigh on that. It is a constant analysis that we do. Few years ago, we've hired a lot of new firefighters, replacements over the last few years. I think if you look at the start dates in it, you can see that we've got a much younger force. But after we hire them, we've got to go through civil service. We send them to the academy, unless we get a lateral. We don't get many laterals to speak of.
No reason.
It is a long lag, so that is an issue. So I understand. I tell you, if I had a safer grant again and I could hire 4, I might do it. Knowing how I think this board is probably a little bit more amenable to, in general, to safer grants than previous board members have been, at least one. I might do it, but it is a constant analysis we do. And if we didn't get hit with the perfect storm this year of a number of different, and thank you, Chief, for giving the backup on that, and Deputy, that was pretty important. We had a lot of firefighters out. But it's analysis that we do. But if we are low in overtime and, you know, if it's 200,000 in overtime and it's gonna be 360 plus bennies for 4 new employees, I gotta think of that. So that's my long-winded explanation over 17 years.
Stefan, you good for now?
Yeah.
Dan?
Thanks, Jim. So I want to focus a little bit about the end of the memorandum from the subcommittee. Two items that jumped out at me. One is the potential purchase of the capital of the fire pumper, $1.3 million. I remember pumpers were like 800,000. A hell of an increase. But I also understand that once you put your order in, it might be 3 or 4 years before you actually get the pumper. And that seems to be the trend. With Seagrave and Oshkosh Truck, the only ones that are making these things anymore. So what pumper would we be replacing and how old is it?
The oldest pumper we have is a 2000 Seagrave.
Is it 2000 Seagrave?
Yeah,
Okay,
we'd be replacing that.
okay. Well, that's your request anyway.
Well, yes.
So, I mean, that's a big deal. We'll probably bond that out or something. Right, Steve, you're bonding it?
Absolutely, yep, and we plan to have an article in May for that.
Okay, so there's a May article coming
Yeah.
for that, and
And
I'm
again,
sure
knowing it's gonna be 2 or 3 years before we get it.
at least that, might be
Yeah.
3 or 4.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll be talking about that more when the capital
Right.
request comes in. The other thing that jumped out at me on the memorandum is the idea that we might have to add another fire station. I'm just curious, can someone flesh out for me the reasoning? Why would we be doing that? Where would we put it? What kind of, increase in calls volume do we have? Do we have any data on increase in call volume? You got any stats that support a potential third station? I'm looking for some support on that thought.
Actually, I had, in my annual report, I had mentioned 2 possibilities. The construction of a third fire station or putting a third pumper in service on running it out of headquarters, which would not solve the response time issue that we have when we're responding up into Montrose. We get deep into Montrose, you run into like a 5-minute response time, 5-6 minutes. That's without a lot of traffic. So the reason, if we were to go the route of a third fire station, the goal would be to try to decrease the response time by putting an engine. Last time we discussed this was quite a few years ago. And we were looking at an area on Lowell Street over by the Forest Glade Cemetery. Piece of town land there, and that would be, hopefully that would be the location of a third fire station. If in fact it ever comes to fruition.
And how many additional men would that require?
It would be a 3-person company, so you're looking at 12 firefighters.
And have anybody calculated the cost of additional 12 firefighters?
Well, you could probably go along the lines of what Steve just said with his estimate of one additional firefighter per shift. It's not a small expenditure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we think about 4, and if you do the salaries plus benefits, you're looking at $500,000 for 4. So if we added 12, multiply by 3, you're looking at $1.5 million added to the fire budget, plus the cost of a pumper is another $1.3 million that would be residing there. You're talking, $2.5 to $3 million impact to go that route. I don't see that in the cards. I just don't see any way in the near term and not even the long term that we could come up with $3 million to handle a third station plus the cost of the building of a third station. That's gonna be millions of dollars as well. Yeah, we can't handle that. To me, right now, that's a non-starter. But I'm only one of the 15 here.
Well, I can understand your feelings on that. My job is to make recommendations based upon what the calls that the department is receiving for service and how efficiently we're able to respond to them.
And I appreciate that. I want to hear about this stuff. What bothers me more is surprises. And I'd rather hear about this early than when it's too late. So, kudos for that. Yes, please bring these things up. Absolutely.
I don't think I would be doing my job if I didn't bring that up, frankly.
Yep, exactly. Thank you. I'm good.
Very good. Ed,
Well, I would be concerned about the cost of the fire station, talking about millions of dollars, what, 20, $30 million perhaps? Steve,
I don't
and
think it'd be that.
really, can we sustain that under the levy limit? That's the other question.
Let me say this, I am not proposing this
No,
at all.
I'm throwing it
I'm
out.
gonna tell you what I tell my wife, I need to leave some things for your next husband to do. So it's the same thing.
yeah, I don't think anybody's proposing that in this budget, correct?
No.
But it is, the chief is right, is that the town is growing. Buildings are getting higher. There are more calls. What's the difference in calls every year?
400 this year.
Yeah, and there are not only 300 calls in the totality, but Deputy, talk about concurrent calls.
Yeah, we're overlapping calls 31.87%, which is, I mean, that's a third of our calls that happened
Oh,
together.
I think that's clear. I'm not even questioning
Different
that. I'm
areas.
just questioning whether that's the way to go with it.
So,
Station.
infrastructure is a lot, but you'd be looking at a building the size of the Greenwood Station.
Oh,
Which
Yeah.
house one apparatus, 2 bays, 3 firefighters, 2 and a lieutenant. Yeah, if it's 105,000 a firefighter, it's like 1.35 million just for personnel.
Hmm.
Then the station.
Yeah.
Another proposal, like the chief said, would be to run an additional engine out of headquarters.
Yeah.
Staffing would be still the same, no infrastructure. You still have the response time though. I mean, I have packets full of stuff, pie charts. I'll send them all to you. We'd be here all night to back up quite a few different things. As the chief said, our job is to form the committee, counseling yourselves about public safety, and it's growing just around the response times. Our average time on scene is 16 minutes, 12 seconds. And you have to think of the ladies and the gentlemen that run all the time up there. The phone rings, the bell rings, we're in, we're out, we're going all the time. That's what's leading to some of these injuries. And to the gentleman's point, I think you were speaking more like a provisional, where if someone goes out, we can replace them. That's like the old days, we don't do that, and those injuries are all long-term, but those individuals come back to work once sun's out and retiring, so.
They're all on 111F.
Once
Right.
we go below 11, we gotta hire, we have to keep them, because we're so spread out. You have to have that 11 does minimum. If you were to go to 14, you kept it at 11, you save all the time then with that gap. But we're heading that way regardless. It's just the volume's going to continue to head up and head up and head up. I think you can see it all around you.
Hold on. Don.
So with all of these injuries that
Thank
are driving the overtime, is that covered through workers' comp? Or,
No, neither police nor fire is medical costs are covered through workers' comp.
okay, so,
It's 111F. And every now and then you'll see an article at town meeting. We might have one this year too, where we pay for those because it would be so, our insurance for workers' comp would be, I don't know, 5 times as much if we covered them in there.
okay, so there's no, when somebody's out, there's no reduction to regular payroll then because it's paid by somebody
No.
else. So it's all built into the regular pay.
111F, just to.
111F, yeah.
Up to 111F.
What does that mean? Sorry.
It's it's the chapter that allows us, well, Kevin, you explain.
It's the place where the money is if.
Yeah, it's
Law.
state law. We don't cover police or fire under workers' comp. Right? We cover them kind of, it's almost like self-insuring, we're paying it.
Yeah, that's
on their own.
what it sounds like.
there like a stop loss to that, that you, that,
Is is there a stop loss? That's the question.
No, I don't think so.
Was anybody,
Two questions.
all right?
One's for Steve. When, do you have like a hybrid number that says, I'm gonna, if there's a town employee hired, the firefighter, it's approximately 90 grand. Do you have like a hybrid, like for every employee added, it's a rough amount this much?
Oh, that we add for
like,
pennies.
Fully loaded. Do you have that number?
In my mind, I use 30%
Okay,
in my mind. Per employee
per employee per
mean-
year.
per year, yeah.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Now, there's a little bit of a twist now with the Affordable Care Act. When we're hiring kids that are under 26,
Hmm,
they don't take the insurance, right?
but you do the buyback, right?
When kids are hired, but by
I
that.
thought if they didn't take the
No,
insurance.
no, that will be included in that figure.
Okay.
You can't, no, you have to be on our insurance and get off to get the off.
Okay,
Yeah, we're not paying, if you never get on, you've never opted
Okay.
out, if you don't get anything.
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it's 30. Okay.
You can be on for a year too.
To get it. Okay.
Get off.
So my more specific question is, I'm a little rusty. So there's like a line item 5192 educational incentive. Can someone just walk me through what that is? I don't care if it's Kevin, firefighters.
It's a negotiated stipend that, we pay our department members. If they have, whether they have an associate's or a bachelor's or a master's degree.
Yep.
That was recently increased from the last contract.
Correct. So they're college level courses then?
They're college degrees.
And are they required to be like in some sort of like fire science, criminal,
Yes.
just like,
Like the police, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
But
thank
it's not, excuse me, it's not something for them to continue education. They get a stipend because they are at a level already.
No, they can continue as they go.
Yeah, if they have associates, they can get a bachelor's and get a
Exactly.
stipend.
Exactly.
And would that help, therefore help you progress on in the ranks, if you will, as you go through and take exams and?
Well, it certainly would, it increases their income opportunities. The theory is that they're, if they go and further their education, that yes, they will take promotional exams and.
Okay.
And hopefully, do well on them and.
And essentially though, that it's contractually negotiated and
Correct.
folks just put in for like reimbursement for classes then.
No, it's just a straight stipend, like you don't get anything from the town until you hit the
It's
associates.
for the degree, not for the.
It's for the degree, yeah.
Yeah,
Once you earn your degree, you get whatever stipends.
Oh,
It's
now
not-
I
it's
get
not
it.
to pay.
It's not to reimburse for classes. That's what I was trying to figure. I was noodling through the wrong way. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
I'll get to you, Dennis.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the main thing I want to point out is that I really think the only way to go with it in the future would be the additional engine at the main station, because we do have the bay there available. It's not reconstructing the big number for a new building. But as we increase our workload, we're definitely gonna need, especially with the minimum manning, which is the killer, is to increase up to 14 and leave the minimum manning. We cannot continue to increase employees and add minimum manning also, because we defeat ourselves. We did it the last time. It cannot continue that way. And I think we'd be in better shape. And the other thing, with the more new development goes on, maybe like the up at Lake Quantipowitt, they're giving money for a police little mini station up there. We can get major developers to, fund our fire department end, not just the police department. So we ought to think about, making a fee in there for the new developments. So that's another way of raising funds. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian.
Just question on how we compare to like the surrounding communities in terms of station staffing. I don't know if it's, I know the police department had an analysis on, call volume and officers on duty there. I don't know if we have any insight into that.
All the surrounding communities around us, except for Stony, we got 2 stations. They all run into, I think they're all up to three pieces now, maybe not Linfield. But, their staffing's come up over the years, just like ours has. overtime, it would depend on their minimum staffing level, but
That varies on town, like
Yeah,
our
I mean,
minimum
we're-
staffing is different than others.
ours is high, but it's not unheard of. Up in our size.
It's a common discussion among town managers.
But if you're looking for stats on our community, you can ask the deputy, send an email. But I don't know if you have comparisons, deputy, across all various
I
communities.
don't, but, excuse me, we work with them on conventions and all that, correct? Yeah. And the big thing is they're staffed with no less than 3 firefighters, an officer and 2 firefighters. In some case, an officer and 3 firefighters. The old days, they let the wagon run out with 2, and it's just, that's not gonna happen. It's, we set the benchmark, and a lot of communities followed, and I go give credit where credit is due. Steve is the greatest thing he ever did, and a lot of people come after him for that, and the chief will agree. And the chief told him it's going to increase overtime. That's the only way we can run, the only way. I'll back it up with every statistic you want in safety. We got to that point, that's where we can stay. If we increase, Dennis is right. It's a time killer, but 11 gives us 3 across the board. A lot of people don't know that. That's, you know.
No, I'm more just curious what these surrounding towns are, because I
But if we put another piece in service, okay, which is what we're talking, whether it's at the main station or at a new station somewhere, minimum manning is gonna go up too, because that piece has to be manned as well. And having a piece run out with 2 firefighters on it just isn't safe.
Yeah.
And the deputy and the chief have told me, if they have a mutual aid truck come here with 2 firefighters on that truck, go over there. You're not any help.
It's in the agreements for
Yeah.
most cities. We won't send out mutual aid pieces out of town without 3. We'll pull them off, another one go, and then we have to hire that. Because those are, it's not a safe operation. Incident commander just says, go sit in the corner, let you send them.
Stefan, did you have another question?
Yeah, there was one thing I wanted to mention too, and I know police, they were earlier looking for a +1 FTE. The forecasting committee has mentioned that we're kind of in a budget crunch right now. So any increases across any budget is really tough, really tough. I don't know how creative fire can be in terms of fire and police and sharing like PSAP duties, like working like 911 calls or things of that nature. But and also like any type of analysis that could be done from an operational perspective. I know Steve had mentioned you can't just hire 1, you need to have 4. But has there been any analysis on like what actually just hiring 1 person would do? Like, does that reduce enough stress on one particular period of time?
If you,
One particular.
staffing the way it is with the 2 engines in the ladder, and you increase the shift level by 1, that possibly would reduce overtime. Probably would have some effect on it, but it doesn't solve the problem the problem is that our run count is going up, and it's going up to the point where 3 pieces of apparatus can't handle it. The instances where we have an engine going out the door and then they're not even off the ramp yet, and the phone's ringing again because somebody's having a heart attack on the other side of town, and another piece goes out the door. That happens 30% of the time. You know, and there are days when we have quite a few more runs than normal, and there's also days when, you know, the run count's lower. But it doesn't solve that problem, increasing the shift by one firefighter.
I think what you're thinking was like a floater, like
A float.
you come in and say, all right, you're going to Greenwood today because someone's out,
Exactly.
things like that.
That's what I'm thinking, at least in my mind. And again, I'm not an expert in firefighter operations, so it's difficult for me to,
And
that's a panacea, but
you know, we can certainly look at that, but it just previous analysis doesn't seem that it's not feasible, but we can certainly look.
and my point about mentioning the PSAP too was also that if, for instance, you know, the fire department is everyone's healthy, you still have that floater, that extra person. If they spend time taking up or manning one of the slots at the PSAP to free up one of the officers that usually sit there to help out the police department with their +1 need. So that's like the creative thinking that I'm at least in my head. I'm just not sure if that's.
A light duty clause where they're allowed to come back in, light duty for a firefighter is dispatch. We still do our own dispatch side. So they would, that would help to reduce overtime as well.
Brian,
Yes, thank you. So Chief, back to 5192 educational incentive. I'm just looking at the fact that that went up by 14%. And I'm curious, given that it's like a thing that's provided to all of the firefighters, why did it go up by so much?
The stipend that they get paid for their various degrees, whether it's associates, a bachelor's or a master's, went up.
So the costs of getting those things, earning those degrees has gone up.
But
No.
no, the
Stipend went up by 1%.
1% a year is what it went up in the last contract. So when we started, it was 5, 10, and 15, and it goes up, it went up one percentage point a year. Like the contract.
Okay. So what was appropriated last year was 358,000, right? And we're up to 409, which is $51,000 more, which, as I calculated, is 14% of what we appropriated in 25, not 1%.
1% of the base pay.
Okay.
There's also more members that have earned degrees.
Okay, got it. So it's calculated basically each year, depending on how much we're paying the firefighters and how many people are eligible.
Yeah.
Okay. And I just want to say that I feel like, Stefan, that's a terrific possibility, the idea of having a floater. I know it's not, I also am not an expert in fire department operations, but it seems like having one or even two people who go to different firehouses, depending on the need or who's out, could be a great way to ameliorate the situation. Thank you.
No,
Yeah.
we already do that just for the record. If we, if there's an opening in Greenwood. The extra warm body that you go to. You get moved around.
if you're above minimum manning, you utilize the resources that are on. Dan,
Yeah, so this is a really minor thing, just a curiosity and maybe considered a waste of time, but Joseph Nee has got a designation of senior firefighter. He's the only one, and he was brought on the same time as, on April 1st of 2005 as a couple other firefighters, but he's got a higher pay level. So what's the difference between a senior firefighter and a firefighter if they both been hired the same day?
A couple of contracts ago, there was another stipend negotiated into the contract. Where, well, first of all, you're right, there are ties in the deeds of hire. That's determined, their ranking, if there's a tie, is determined by civil service. And I've provided that information, when we designate who's gonna be the senior firefighter or the senior lieutenant or a senior captain. There's only one because that's the way it's set up in the contract.
We phase them out.
So
Lieutenants.
is the duties any different than a firefighter or a lieutenant?
No,
so the senior person is getting a stipend because on a seniority basis, they are the senior person in that classification. Is that right?
same thing,
I think is that correct?
yes.
He or she is the senior firefighter from a seniority basis, and they get that stipend, I think you said.
Well, for the one person that's got the most.
And that's-
What was top of the list?
Okay, all right.
Okay.
But the duties are the same as a firefighter, it just happens to
Correct.
be at the top of the list. Got it. Thank you.
Brian,
Hi. So I noticed that Fire Lieutenant Sansanito, what his pay went up by 21%, and I'm curious what that was about. And if you guys covered it earlier, I apologize. I was a little tardy.
He was promoted within the last year. So his previous salary was a firefighter salary and he got the bump to lieutenant when he was promoted.
Got it. Thank you.
Ed,
Chief, so out of grade situations, is that based on seniority or civil service score on the list or?
The way we've been doing it, is we have a standing civil service list for like lieutenant, captain. Somebody's out for an extended period of time, then we would make an appointment off of that list. And, they would serve for the duration of the list, and if the person came back, they would go back to being the.
Okay, so the highest score on the list, next highest score on the list.
Yeah. But we'll run out of those names and we do go by seniority.
Nice.
And there was a lot of juggling this year, in that regard.
We try to save money that way, so when somebody goes down. promote timely, so that that's the basis. That's right. Taken, there's no overtime. Right, we did that quite a bit this year.
Exactly.
thank you. Don,
So the chief, on the firefighters that are out on injury, what's the town's process for medically managing those injuries?
The town, has retained a vendor to do that. Gowry,
Gowrie, yeah.
Gowry, is that? Yeah, yeah. And they monitor those cases and, get the medical reports and so forth. That's their job.
Okay.
They make recommendations to us.
So they recommend that firefighter needs to be out. They recommend the firefighter is clear to return to work and, or light duty or whatever.
With the individual's medical team, yes.
Yes, okay. And where is that contract, Steve? Is that, does that reside in the fire budget or is in the,
Personnel in, human resources.
in the human resources? No.
It's managed through that department. Bonnie does a lot of work on that.
anybody else? My only question, so is there a pumper in the capital? Is that proposed
It will be a separate article,
article? Yep.
and it will be a borrowing. Yeah.
All right. Gentlemen, thanks for coming in tonight. I think team's all set.
I gotta say, they've done a great job. We've had a lot of fires this year, a number of fires, and a couple of them have been very close to neighboring properties, and they've done a great job of knocking them down and making sure there's been no injuries. There was one, and that was sadly the person who set it on fire and set the oxygen tanks on fire. And that happened before they got there, but when I think about a few of them, the closeness to property, and they could have run right down the street. So great job by your staff. They come home safe for the most part.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Shit. Just, it probably goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. The injury list is, there's some information on there that just is for our viewing only. Thank you. All right. Appreciate you coming in. Next one is accounting, Steve, or
Yeah, I think accounting, whatever Kevin wants.
Kevin Show now.
Show now.
Next budget is the accounting budget. We have Liz Rourke here tonight. She's the new town accountant. If anyone has not met her yet, she is online with us. This budget here, we're recommending that this budget be decreased $8,641 over the current fiscal year. This decrease breaks down $8,171 to the tax levy, $470 to water and sewer transfer. The reason the decrease in personal services, $14,671, is because Liz came in at a lower rate on the pay scale than myself, the previous town accountant. This portion of the budget does include contractual and negotiated increases for both the town accountant and the clerical employees within this department. There is an increase under contractual services, $6,500. This includes a yearly increase for the town audit of $2,000. And we put some money into outside professional services, $4,500. If we need to hire support, if you remember when we did the IT budget, we did reduce a position there, the Munis support position. So these few $1,000s is if we need to bring someone in to help in certain instances. Main expenses within this budget, $28,000 for equipment rental. The accounting office pays for the copy machines and high-speed printers for several of the departments here in town. That includes the town council, accounting, benefits, the tax collector, the building department, and the treasurer's office. We have $8,000 for postage, which is used to mail the accounts payable checks. The total budget request for fiscal 26 is $488,814, with $466,206 coming from the tax levy and $22,608 coming from a water and sewer transfer.
Any questions? Ed?
Kevin and Liz, curious, who are we using for the outside audit firm, given the demise of Powers and Sullivan?
We're still using the same group that was with Powers and Sullivan. They are now CBiz now.
CBiz.
They Powers and Sullivan was sold to Markham, and Markham was then acquired by CBiz. So it's still the same personnel for now. So we are still using them. We have one more year with them contractually.
So you have a 2-year deal with them?
Correct.
Is that what you have?
We had a 3, but we have 2 years left with them. Right.
Okay. And what's the annual cost?
For the audit, it was $62,025, and it was going up to $64,000.
So Kevin and Liz, have they produced audited financial statements for fiscal 2024?
No, those are in process. We do our audit late. They come out in early December to start the audit. Or they do their preliminary work in June, then come out and do the actual audit the first and second week in December. So right now I am waiting on the drafts where I was told that we should be getting them shortly.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? The accounting budget. Don?
I just have a curiosity question. In the paper, there's a long list of checks that are not canceled. What happens to those? Do those eventually go to the state if they don't get cashed, or what? Do we just keep them outstanding, or?
Yeah, we put them into what we call tailings, so they're sitting out there. The treasurers then has to advertise them, and if they're still not claimed, that we can reclaim them.
So eventually you can put them back in general fund, so we said.
Correct. That's correct.
You have to advertise them twice now, I believe. Twice.
Yes.
And what's the time period that they?
What is it?
It's usually a year on the checks. So after a year, if they haven't been cashed, we advertise.
And what obscure news outlet did Steve choose to do this advertising?
I didn't choose. The treasurer chose.
I believe they were posting them in the Wakefield item.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Did it at the supermarket in the bottom shelf. I got a bill free cash. Come on.
We're all in this together.
It's on the website too, though.
Yeah.
You can find it there.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And we had then was the cable television.
Yes, the cable TV public access enterprise budget. This is basically a pass-through. The town has contracts with our cable providers. They in turn send in money to the town. And based on the revenues that we collect, it's basically a 1/3, 2/3 split between WCAT, which provides coverage for the town, for our public and governmental channels. So they get 2/3 of the revenue. The school gets 1/3 where they have an educational channel. This budget, we're recommending a decrease of $65,716 over the current fiscal year. This budget is based on prior and current year estimated revenues. Revenues have been trending down from PEG payments. Also in fiscal 26, we're not going to receive a capital payment from Verizon of $37,500. Based on their contract, we were to receive $150,000, 4 payments of $37,500. We received that last payment this current fiscal year, so there will be no payment next year. The personal services amount of $140,000 in this budget is used for salaries at the Wakefield High School for 2 teachers in their media department. The contractual services amount of $328,500 are the payments that we make to WCAT, which provides the cable access for the town. The total budget request for fiscal 26 is $493,500.
Questions, Ed? Kevin, when do these contracts expire? Are they long-term contracts?
Yeah, usually they run about 10 years. I think one is coming up in fiscal 27. If I remember right, that is the Verizon contract.
You're correct.
Yeah. And the revenue is based on what? A percentage of subscribers, sales, the revenue from subscribers? Yeah.
That's correct.
I'm trying to read the report here. Is that the revenue at the 542,000? Is that a revenue number? Projected revenue? 2025?
The projected revenue for fiscal 25 is 479,000.
Oh, I see. Okay, yes. So it is trending down. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, thank you.
So, sorry, anybody else question? The schools, this supports 2 staff for the educational portion. Is that what I thought I heard?
Right, two teachers in their media department.
Okay. I don't know if you have any idea, is it still a highly sought after class or program? Does anybody know? No, you don't know. Okay. I mean, at some point, the budget itself for the program is gonna run into some situations where some decisions will have to be made, right?
Yeah, what's happening is that people are not, particularly young people, old people like us probably still have it, but none of my kids have cable, right? They're doing whatever they do, streaming everything.
My kids do either. They're trying to pay for their gas bill.
Yeah, Ray probably doesn't.
I was like, I didn't even know we still had it. They go, wow.
Cable.
Um,
What do you do on football Sunday? You can't,
You stream it.
guys, you're red zone, but you can't have different,
Yes.
yeah.
but you gotta hop in and out of apps.
Apple TV.
Yeah.
So YouTube TV, just a sidebar, right? So YouTube TV has something very similar to the Red Zone. So we're on the Cape and I'm talking to my neighbor and he's got a big TV on his porch and my son's over there and he's talking and he saw, I just got this YouTube TV, I'm not sure. And the kid takes the clicker and sets it up. All of a sudden he's got 5 games up there. The guy sits back like this on the deck and just takes a big sip out of his beer and says, honey, we gotta get this at home. So there are ways to make it work, I guess.
Wave.
There are, so this is an issue.
Yeah.
The revenue stream is reducing every year. There is a subcommittee that's looking at it, and Amy is on the subcommittee. I think, my opinion is that although it is a decline, it's not as dire as we were led to believe in the beginning, but there are gonna be, there is a downward trend. Were a couple of bills at, the State House to
Right.
look at charging, having a pass-through like on cable with the streaming companies. That hasn't really gone anywhere as of yet, so we're kind of watching that, so there may be some changes here.
Yeah. Amy, anything else to add? Sorry,
Sorry, no, I think Steve said it well.
very good. Yeah.
Go on here. They're building a new like studio at the new high school, right?
Right.
Would that have any impact on making it more attractive?
Well, that's WCAT. I mean, I would think
I'm just
to
thinking-
get more of the students to use it,
Yeah.
to increase that program, but it's not gonna increase revenue.
And who's covered? Good,
They
sorry.
have maybe look, and they also have to look, they are a 501c3, WCAT is, they need to look also, I think, about
Right.
creating revenue on their own, whether they're gonna do podcasts for people, or they're gonna.
That's kind of what I was
Yeah.
thinking. right?
I think that
If it's a nicer studio, it could be, I think what's like Staples, they have like the podcast.
Right.
studios, Right.
Exactly.
Could this be a?
So they are looking at those items too.
The build out in the school for the studio and everything, is that covered? Are they contributed?
They are, the WCAT has contributed, to particularly the equipment.
Yeah,
It will be built out, and I think Joe Bertram could tell you better than
Yeah.
that, but it's gonna, all of the, it'll be wired, all the stuff will be there, and then they're gonna build it out, just like they did at the current one.
correct. Brian,
So I don't know if y'all remember, but remember how the phone company used to charge us for long distance calls? And then it was texts, like, you could get a certain amount of texts that were free, and beyond that, you had to pay more. They just find a different way to charge us. Why can't we charge the cable companies? Sorry, not the cable companies, but the broadband companies, which are the cable companies, for their broadband access to this market? Because that's where people are streaming their entertainment,
Well,
right?
that's, the legislature's trying to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, it just,
But it seems
the
to
model
go-
shifted.
I think their lobbyists are better than ours are.
Go
It's basically
figure.
what's happening. I'm getting really cynical. It's really coming up.
just under the surface and now it's leaking. Anybody else?
Till June.
I was thinking. We'll be done meeting then. We'll just have to read about it.
Meeting's over. Gonna let it loose.
All right, that covers the budgets, I think, right? Yes, so. All right,
You're gonna get a lot of budgets at the next meeting, so
yes,
ready.
originally we had scheduled, Steve had scheduled DPW and, they're getting teed up. Next meeting, we have capital as well.
Capital as well, yeah.
Next meeting will be a longer meeting, not that they all aren't necessarily sometimes, but for example, the capital guy, can't make it, a lady can't make it till 7:30. I exchanged emails, but Steve and I agreed we'd be here at 7:30, so. Anyway. I will go through some meeting minutes. Can find my pile. First one was the
Forecast.
forecasting meeting minutes of, February 4th, 2025.
So I'll move acceptance of the,
Don moves to accept meeting minutes. Second?
Yeah,
Second.
second.
Thank you.
can I just ask Steve to change and to Don?
I did that in pen, so yes. On the last line?
Yeah.
Yes. Got that one.
Good. Motion to accept with the edit. All those in favor from the committee?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. The fire department subcommittee, which we did receive. And I printed it out actually. I entertain a motion to accept the February 25th Finance Fire Department Subcommittee.
So moved.
A second.
Second,
Any discussion on the fire department subcommittee meeting minutes? All those in favor of accepting the minutes from February 25th, 2025 Fire Subcommittee?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? You? And last is the Finance Committee meeting minutes from our last meeting of February 27th. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Ryan, second.
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 Everybody seconded it. You?
It's great, quit it.
Any discussion? See anything? All those in favor of accepting the full committee full committee meeting minutes from 27th February 2025? Anyone opposed? Okay. Any committee comments? Yes, Laurie.
Are we on for Saturday morning? Is it happening or did I?
Saturday, the
Uh,
22nd.
Second.
I'll-
Second.
I'll-
Off by a week?
From.
Yeah.
Yep.
Week from, I am off by a week. Okay. So 22nd.
I will send around an email with the location. It's going to be in the middle school. I'm going to work with Steve to work out some coffee and donuts or something, hopefully. And I'll have the the agenda prepared as well. And I'll get that all to you by early next week. Thank you, Jim, for your notes from the meeting on Monday.
Yes, so the school subcommittee did meet this week again. And if you don't know, the school budget was presented to school committee Tuesday night. It is on their website, the school's website. There's also a video on the school website giving some outline and context to their budget this year. It's proposed at 5.95, I think, Brian, is that right?
Yes.
That's right.
And something else I was just gonna say about that. Of that budget, 5.15 is contract obligations. So 5.95, 5.15 is for raises. I can look at my notes, but Brian's has some notes that I think he's gonna get together and send out. And we're
Yep.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
No, that's
Go ahead,
exactly
Brian.
right.
Yep.
So I don't have
I
anything
did-
to add at this point, but I will be sending it out.
Yep, we did request the same format. We had gotten Excel files. We did request the Excel files. The book is available. Brian or I can send the book around if you want. We have a PDF of the book, not a Excel file based. So, and I had a note to talk about the school meeting, which you already spoke about. It is Saturday morning, 3:22. I don't have anything else. Other committee comments?
Dan has his hand up.
Dan?
Hey there, thanks. So, forecast. So one of the things I've done is gone through said school budget proposal and incorporated the values. The good news is in the forecast, I actually had a 6% increase on the schools and it come in at 595 or 592. So we picked up, $1,000. And then I added the fire department as well as accounting. At the moment, we're at a deficit of $2.2 million. So that went up just a small amount. I think the last time I had about 1950, and it's now 2.2 million shortfall. The other thing I noticed, and Jim, maybe you've already looked at it, or Brian, but when I went to the schools, it looks like they're adding 15.2 FTEs to their budget. I hope I'm wrong, but that's how I added it up when I went through their additions on personnel.
There was a one-page sheet, Dan, that I don't have printed with me. I have a few lines printed. I think if I looked at it, which I did yesterday, there was one sheet showing a list of asks, what principals and others asked for. And it would say 900,000. And what was granted was, I'll not have the numbers right, 50,000, because that 50,000 came from multi-language student grant or something. There's a page that shows potential requests, and at the very bottom, it's like yellow. I don't know if that's the same page you're looking at. when
Yeah,
when we asked, there were no additional, personnel.
So are these grants gonna be like long-term or we have to fire those people after a year or two?
So again, that whole page, there was like one half of one multi-language teacher that was being funded by a grant. That was the only thing on the whole page. So
So the rest of it is aspirational, you're saying?
absolutely.
Wow,
I
that's
could
not,
bring-
that's not how I read it, but I can go
Sure.
back and, I can go back and reread that section of their budget.
Yeah, El's got the book. I don't remember. Anyway, yeah, double check it because Brian asked, or one of us asked, and they were clear, that there were no new additional hires.
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
think
that's
they
good
said that
news.
in the paper tonight too. There was.
Said in the paper tonight, Don?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
Yeah,
Alright,
so
thank-
With a headline that says the school's budget plan is lean.
lean. I don't think Brian or I or
please.
anybody else said that.
No.
No, no, there's too much fat there. Come on.
So the personnel increase is 5.15 of the total. That page I printed because that's one of my favorite pages. So the rest of it is odds and ends and special education. So anyway, go ahead,
Yeah.
Dan. Sorry.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say that anybody who's coming, and I do encourage people to come the 22nd, please read through their document and look at the previous year's documents as well, just to give you a sense of the changes and the trend rate. Because that's important for our discussion on 22nd.
Yep.
And again, I would just encourage you all to just think about the things about which you have questions, so that when we get to Saturday, the 22nd, we can make sure that we get all of those questions answered. That's a huge part of my goal, is to make sure that whatever questions you all come with get answered, but in a way that works for you.
Great. Anything else on that? So the next meeting, any other comments? Next meeting is on the 27th. We had a number of things on this meeting already. DPW will be on the 27th. If you have the original schedule that I sent out, DPW will be added. I'll be sending an email out Saturday that the subcommittee is likely going to meet next Friday with DPW, Friday morning, hybrid meeting, 8 o'clock, this coming Friday, not tomorrow. So those on that subcommittee, I usually meet across the hall. Everybody's welcome to do that. But I did ask him to make it hybrid as well. So I'm on the subcommittee. That's why I'm bringing that up. So DPW has their numbers together. I don't know. He said he was waiting for Kevin, but I didn't really believe that. But anyway, we're all together now. So, and I think that was it.
Retirement.
Schools are scheduled. I got to talk to Steve on schools. For some reason, I recall a
I think they're okay.
come around.
They're okay, yeah.
Good. So the schools are scheduled to present to town council on 4/14 and then come to see us on 4/17.
And I hope to have the vote on the 17th as well.
Yes, that night we have, our full budget voting is, we'll remind you again next meeting, but that's the meeting. If you have discussion points for any of the budgets we've talked to or about, you want to be prepared for that night if we begin to vote on all of the budgets. Go ahead, Don.
So Steve, I thought we were gonna do the health
Yep, health will be at the next meeting as
at the
well.
next meeting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a whole list. I'm sorry. I can get down. It's health, it's Medicare, it's retirement, group health, capital planning, town council budget,
Hope so, yeah.
DPW.
okay.
We took Cablevision off and did that tonight. Nice work.
So when we hit the 17th, it's just schools?
The schools, the vote, warrant articles, and voting.
And Medicare.
Medicare, I'm sorry.
Medicare's gonna bump out to that last meeting.
Medi-
Be able to do
Medicare.
it as well,
Probably, yeah.
but shorter with the 22nd, hopefully.
That's aspirational too, as well, I believe.
I'm trying to not be a cynical.
Oh, it does get long because we vote on every single, we have to vote on every single.
That's it. We go through and vote on it with a voting sheet.
Remember, we take them in sections.
Yeah,
That's
Take,
right.
like, you know,
Some are
all of
grouped,
general
right?
government,
and
but then the large budgets, we vote on every large budget. Bertrand better be here. He runs that portion of the meeting.
And nobody else can do it.
That's how I was told when I came.
I think
Anybody
nobody else wants to do it.
And thank you for the update. I did, I don't know when we were on a call, we were on a call for health insurance. I think there was and Dan mentioned, just so people are aware, I think we talked about it, but, our contribution to OPEB in the forecast, our forecast, Dan's forecast, is, $500,000. 3 years ago, 2 years ago, it was 1.4. Last year, it was, Dan knows the numbers, but last year it was 1 million. And there's been a recommendation to drop it down to $500,000. One, we're doing pretty good. And two, even with the half a million savings, if you would, we are a deficit of 2.2. Personally, I'm not comfortable with 2.2. I think that number is too large. 1 point something year after year, we fund it with free cash, and it's always seemed to work out. But between the health insurance changes and a number of other changes, we'll see how we finish this year to help maybe offset that. But it's a substantial contribution from free cash.
yeah, the increase in health insurance nationwide, particularly across municipalities, is huge. GIC was up
11.
depending on the plan, 14% in some plans. It's a big increase. They did not do any plan design changes. They just increased the premiums.
Right. And
Yeah,
Steve
and
said
just-
it, and I've said it, and others have said it to the state delegation. They don't send enough money our way in general. I will call that my opinion. Steve has an opinion as well. But it's concerning to me, just one person. Thanks.
Yeah, so just to add fuel to that fire, our reserves will drop down to less than 10% in 2027. We will run out of free cash in 31, the way things are set up right now.
Yep. We need a lot of money returned by the respective departments.
A lot more than I've got on my spreadsheet, yes.
Pressure.
So, and we've had a pretty good run in OPEB, but does the current correction impact our OPEB?
Well, we'll be putting less, well, I'm.
Talking about the market correction?
Correction.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna hit that. It's gonna hit retirement. It's gonna,
yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
okay.
it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt
Yeah.
both of those spots.
but it'll bounce back.
And then my other question was, are we still able to get the credit for the solar panels on the Galvin?
That, my understanding is that is still available. And I worry about that too. Although we did fund with the expectation we wouldn't get it. So there would be gravy coming back.
Okay.
You know, we funded the full amount of the project. I hear that it is still available. I also think it is still available, not to be cynical, but a lot of those plants are in red states that are making the components, so I'm just saying. And you cannot even file for that credit until the apparatus starts producing
It's
electricity
gonna be running, right?
and running, and that's probably not gonna be until June.
Okay.
But I'm assuming that that is still gonna be there.
Yeah, because that was what, 300,000 or 400,000?
Yeah.
But Dan, in your forecast, is the assumption for local aids what is coming this year, or is it an average of prior years increases?
It's what is coming in this year from, let's see, my local receipts. Local receipts, for 24, we received 10.967 million. In 25, I had dropped it down to 10.5 million based on discussions with Kevin and the current trend. For 26, I'm basically 11 million. So it's relatively flat in the forecast.
But then I thought 26, you based it upon the House One budget number,
No, we're talking local receipts. That's a different animal.
well, I'm sorry.
I think the question was state though, state receipts, Dan.
Oh, state receipts.
Yeah.
State receipts I've got right now is 14,121, which is, I think, the current working number. Well, I got that from Steve, I believe.
Yeah, that's the House One number.
Yeah, 14,121.
Yeah, so I think we can hope and believe some of these may go up a little.
Historically, the legislature always bumps up
Yeah.
the local aid
Sure.
numbers.
The question is
Well,
whether we can reap a million out of
Yeah.
these potential changes or not.
But that is true historically. My opinion, I'm giving my opinion, right?
That's it.
I don't think that the state legislature's priority is cities and towns right now.
Not at all.
And if you go to the MMA, that was Mass Municipal Association, that was what we all felt. Okay, that being said, the governor's budget did have one of the higher increases per student in chapter 70 than we've seen in a while to start. I think that the House and the Senate will go a little bit from there. So can I see our net numbers going up 100,000, 200,000? I guess I can see that, but I don't see a big bump
Big shit, okay.
personally.
Yep.
Not this year. I don't know, Ed, do you disagree with me?
I completely agree. Didn't
Ed was despondent as well.
wasn't the governor in Somerville today or somewhere?
Yes, yeah.
She noted that there was, didn't feel it was necessary to add any additional funding to schools, from
Yeah.
millionaire's tax. There was a question made,
It was lobbying heavily, but
there was a question from somebody in the audience, whatever. She said she didn't think so. MBTA needs it more.
Nice.
On that note, I'll entertain a motion. Motion, anybody else?
And a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
everybody
you.
coming tonight.
Right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Hey.